You're listening to the Small Business Talk podcast with Cathy Smith, episode 33.
Small Business Talk is a podcast for business owners and entrepreneurs who want a better way to run their businesses without spending years doing it the hard way. Small Business Talk is hosted by Cathy Smith, who has run the same marketing agency for more than 17 years and helped hundreds of business owners achieve their marketing goals.
Hey, I'm so glad you could join us. Welcome to Small Business Talk. Today's topic is how going green can help your business thrive. And today we have an expert on the subject. So welcome, Anca.
Thank you so much, Cathy, and I'm so excited to be here. My name is Anca Novacovici, and I run a business that's called Eco Coach. It's based out of Washington, D.C., and I've been doing this for 13 years. I've been helping businesses, large and small, nonprofits, and government agencies go green and really benefit from that in a variety of ways.
Excellent. Well, there's definitely a very hot topic, I think, all over the world, here in Australia and, of course, in America as well. And I guess it's something that people think that only big businesses can do. So can you walk us through some steps that some smaller single entrepreneurs and then medium-sized business may be able to help to make their businesses thrive going green?
Yes, absolutely. And the first thing that I kind of wanted to address before that is, large businesses have started doing it. And some people think that it's only large businesses that do it. And so I think, to me, a small business being able to go green is a source of competitive advantage. And there's so many things that they can do that can actually help them grow sales and enhance their brand and attract top talent and save money in terms of operational savings. So in terms of some things that they can get started with, you may have someone in your business, or you may be excited. You may see that going green is, okay, this is something that is a huge opportunity potentially for us. So let's get going. And you look at a big project like, okay, let's get started today. Oh, but I don't have the resources. Oh, but I don't have the time. Okay, great. Start small. Okay, so some ideas for starting small and low cost, right? So starting small means not spending too much money. And it also means not spending too much time at the beginning until you build momentum. Some examples kind of right off the top are, if you're looking at reducing waste, let's say you want to tackle waste as the first thing. You want to implement an office reuse center, or if you're really a small business of like 2 people, just a little area where you reuse items so you're not throwing them out. You want to figure out if you're actually recycling the right way. And in most places now, recycling is required. If you're doing it the right way, and if there are other ways that you could improve your recycling rate. And do a recycling challenge, and this can be in a small office. This could be a lot of fun. You can have each person over a 2-week period can see how much they've recycled versus thrown out. And it doesn't have to cost a lot of money. It can just take, just a couple emails out, a little a little tracking chart, and that's it, right? And at the end, you kind of go through and say, okay, who's won? And you can reward people by recognition. You don't have to do a monetary thing or like anything else. I think, to me, recognition is so important. And I think that's another bonus of working in a small business, is that you can recognize each other and then you work with each other every day. So it's pretty awesome. You're like, oh, this person did this person did that. Yeah.
Excellent. And that's a really good thing. We have a big issue in Australia of people recycling, but the recycling being contaminated. So therefore, unfortunately, it doesn't be recycled. So maybe some education on what can be recycled and how to actually process that recycling. So if it's things like milk cartons and stuff, it needs to be washed out and those sort of things. So that's definitely a great place to start. And I like the challenge idea. A lot of people are very competitive, so that can be a really good thing there. Starting small, we're thinking about obviously not printing out our emails. We don't need them, and filing them electronically, that sort of thing. Doing our recycling challenge, then what would we do next?
Well, there are a lot of different things that you can do. If you've kind of just started right there, one of the other things, if you're kind of looking at operational savings and saving for the bottom line, you want to look at energy reduction. And energy reduction is big. Even if you lease your building or your space, you can actually, and of course this depends, right? If you're teleworking, you can even think about doing it at home. If you are working as part of a shared workspace, that part might be a little bit tougher. You can't really negotiate the lease. But if you're in a retail store and you're leasing a space, you may actually be able to speak with your property manager and negotiate the lease such that when you're reducing the energy use in your building, those savings get passed on to you. In a lot of cases, the way, at least that I've seen, if you're leasing a building, the way that the energy contracts work is that they're usually based on the square footage of the space as opposed to how much you're consuming, right? If you have 20% of a larger space, then you're paying 20% of the electricity bill, regardless of whether you're using that much or not, right? So what you want to do is you want to think about that and say, hey, you know what? We're not using that much. Why are we paying that 20%? Let's say you're only using, 17%. That can be a significant cost difference for a small business where you can put those savings to use somewhere else for your, for whatever it is that your goals are that you want to achieve. You can have a conversation with your property manager, with the owner of the building and say, let's think about renegotiating the lease or ways that, we can have those savings passed on to us later on. It's a little more advanced. But even if you're in a leased space, there's still some steps that you can take. Obviously, if you own the building, lighting is an easy one where you can look at what lighting you can do. You can even take out some of the lights. A lot of buildings are overlit. So removing just some of the light bulbs can bring down the harshness. Some buildings have too much light on, honestly. Bring down the harshness. You can think about task lighting. You can obviously implement any sort of automatic lighting, which will go on and off, and use natural lighting, which is a lot of times underused. I think a lot of people will put down the shades and turn on the lights as opposed to just pulling up the shade.
Absolutely. And of course, swapping out for LED lights. And if you're in a rental situation, whereas you're the only one in the property, then certainly in Australia what we have is it's a rent plus the utilities that will reduce your electrical bills and you'll get that on your bottom line immediately. So that's great advice. So we've thought about our lighting. Now where would we be looking at?
You can do different things at different times, right? So these are just examples, and it really depends on your business. Another thing that you might want to look at is reducing plastics use across your entire business. So plastics are something that are pretty ubiquitous everywhere. As I'm sure you know, as I'm sure your audience knows, plastics are a big issue in terms of the oceans and the waterways. They are an issue in terms of the kind of everyday environment where we see it, and even kind of inside us, unfortunately. I know it's not a pretty picture, but that's kind of the reality is that you have like microplastics, and there are even studies that are showing that they're in the rain that's coming down, right? So not stuff that you want to think about. Reducing your plastic use is helpful for going green. It also can be helpful for reducing your costs. And so really simple examples in terms of reducing your costs and going green, and one that any business could do, for example, is looking at reducing any kitchenware that's being used that is plastic. If you have plastic cups, if you're using throwaway disposable knives, forks, just dinnerware in general, think about just purchasing reusable, right? And over the long run, if you actually run the cost, and I've done this for some of my clients, if you run the costs on that, even within 6 months or 12 months, and again, it depends on what you buy and it depends on where you are and what have you, but you actually come out even and then you start saving money, right? And so for a small business, that makes a difference. Another example is figuring out a filter for your water instead of having plastic water bottles, right? Think about a small water cooler, or you can also rent a water cooler. There's so many different ways of doing it, and actually can come out even or save money at the end of the day.
Absolutely, and especially with your plastic cups, the keep cups are a great alternative, or even just going back to actually crockery and using crockery. I mean, there's no reason why you need to have a throwaway cup every time you have a glass of water. Majority of the times you go back to your desk anyway, so just take a glass back and pop it in the dishwasher at the end and we're all good. Okay, excellent.
Absolutely.
What other things can we think about?
this is kind of the next level, is developing overall your strategy around going green, your sustainability strategies. Going green and sustainability, a lot of times I'll use the words interchangeably. And to me, both of them look at impacting the planet, impacting your profits, your bottom line, and also people. So sustainability, or the triple bottom line of people, planet, and profit, really looks at the benefits and the impacts that an organization can have across that three-legged stool. And I think, and going green, to me, when you're impacting the planet positively, you're also savings in your community and your profit, your bottom line. With that in mind, what you want to do is really think about going green, take it to how it can align with your long-term and short-term organizational strategy. What are your goals, and where do those two fit in, such that when you're actually looking at a going green project, it can be something that meets those long-term goals for your organization. So I'll give you an example, right? You're looking to grow sales. And I know I've mentioned that some of the benefits for going green is growing sales, operational savings. Some of the things that we just talked about were operational savings. Well, let's look at growing sales and how, going green can help that. If you've taken all these steps, or you've implemented recycling, right? You have our office reuse center, let's just say. You have reduced your plastic use. And one of the things I recommend is obviously tracking how you've done at the beginning of the project and at the end of the project, so that you know kind of what the progress is that you've made. And then you can actually communicate that to your external stakeholders, right? And you know about marketing, right? Obviously, you're an expert. What you want to do is think about how you can position this, what your customers care about, what do your clients care about, right? Because going green is for business to business and business to clients, B2B or B2C. What do they care about? Do they care about their community? Do they care about the environment? In particular, which part of the environment, right? And so we have the millennials, which are the largest living generation in the US. I know they're kind of overall, too, over the world. You have the Gen Zers who care about the environment and what actions companies are taking, right? So it is perfect for you to start communicating, to start marketing around what those actions that you've taken and what impact those have had on your community, on the planet. And that will help attract new clients, new customers who are aligned with those values.
Absolutely perfect. And we have a classic example of that in southern Western Australia. We have a cafe that's gone green. They have zero waste. What they do is they compost all their food waste at the end of the day. And recently we have done a marketing thing on that to get it out to social media and let people know that they're composting. They call it Greta the Garbo. And Greta so all the waste, and then they bag up the compost, and it's a gold coin donation for the Royal Flying Doctors, which is a charity here. It's done exceptionally well, and people are now coming into that cafe for the exact reason that they are sustainable and they are looking at going as green as possible. So yes, definitely it can, one, increase your bottom line and also increase your sales. So that's great. Love that idea.
Yeah, and that's a fantastic example at the three-legged stool. They're taking actions that are helping to impact the planet positively and reduce their impact. And they're also helping the community. They're giving back, and they're attracting new people who are coming there. And so that's also helping their top and bottom line. And that is fantastic. That's the way going green works, right? It's a win-win-win for everyone. That's one of the messages I want to get out there is, you can do it. It may take a little bit of creativity. It may take a little bit, of additional effort, or kind of thinking about how to think of things strategically or differently. But absolutely, if you are a small business, even if you're a two-person business, you can still do it, and you can still benefit from it on different levels.
And yeah, I think, like you say, it takes a little bit of effort and to think differently to begin with. But once you've actually started, then it becomes your new norm. It just becomes part of your procedures, and it's the new way of doing things. So, we've got to save our planet or we're not going to have a planet. So I think everybody has to do their bit and, start with one step at a time and then work on there. Okay, so thinking if we're a medium-sized business, what would our next strategic area that we should be looking at be?
That's a great question. So one of the things, if you are a medium-sized business and you have more resources, I would think, and actually I would recommend this of all businesses, but I think medium-sized businesses have more resources for this, is looking at developing a going green strategy, which kind of looks at throughout the different areas of your business, how to reduce your resource use. You develop a procurement policy, and then you kind of look at every single area, energy reduction, education for staff, right? All of that, developing a policy so that across the board you start becoming consistent with going green. And that, of course, most of the time comes after you've taken a few steps, you build a little bit of momentum, you have a few wins, because you want to get other people on board, because the more people you have who are taking action at your organization, the easier it will be, and the more momentum you'll have, and the more benefits you'll get. So that is the first step. But the thing that I would say is start looking at your services and products, right? Start thinking about how you can enhance those, how you can make them more eco-friendly, how you can reduce packaging, or if there are new services or products that you can offer that can be a green line, essentially, right? For example, I mean, even if you are a retail store, you may not have had funds to offer bags, like reusable bags. Now you might be able to offer reusable bags at a discounted rate. And then when people come back with those bags, then you can give them a slight discount on the total cost of whatever it is that they purchase, right? So you're kind of thinking differently now that gotten rid of your plastic bags, you now have reusable bags. It's a new thing. You're implementing products, you're implementing new services, you're kind of looking at also your operational processes and how to more streamline them so that they're more aligned kind of with those values.
Perfect. Since the local area here has stopped having plastic bags, there's a group called Boomerang Bags have sprung up. And what that is calico or fabric bags where you just loan them. You take them home, use them, and then the next time you come to that particular shop or another shop that has them, you bring them back. And obviously they keep going round and round as a boomerang. That's why they're called boomerang. The other example of that I recently heard was apparently some years ago, Amazon changed their packaging from these plastic cube sort of things that were very difficult to open. And so they went back to cardboard boxes with recycling packaging inside of them for the bubble wrap and that sort of thing. And what happened was that their return rate and their complaints rate of the products went down considerably. And the products themselves hadn't changed, it was just the packaging. So when people were able to get into their product much easier, then they didn't complain about the actual product inside. So I thought that was a very good example of how you could possibly even reduce your complaints rate.
Absolutely. I love it. I love that example.
Great. Is there anything else that we really should be looking at to tackle the going green and making it much easier for businesses?
The one thing that I would want to add that I think is often overlooked, and this is kind of one of my passions since even before I was doing sustainability consulting and going green consulting, before the last 13 years, is change management and organizational behavior. And so getting people on board, because a lot of times that is overlooked. And it's even with going green, I think a lot of people are excited about it, and that's fantastic within an organization. But I also think that there's some people who are still thinking, it's a nice to have, it's going to cost us money. Or like with any other project, they're thinking, I have to change the way I've been doing things. This is not something I want to do, right? And that's okay. That you're going to come across that, right? There's resistance to change in any, life is change, and yet we all resist it in one way or another, right? It's addressing that. It's communicating internally. It's thinking about how am I going to communicate this in a way that makes sense to my internal audience, right? I mean, an example is I had a client that was a satellite company that was all filled with engineers. Engineers like data. They like stats. So the communication when we developed implement their sustainability strategy was all around stats, all about data, right? Whereas a nonprofit that's more concerned about kind of the softer things or skills, or should I say, then you're kind of looking about emotions, you're looking about the benefits to the planet, right? So you want to communicate to your organization, you want to communicate to your colleagues, and obviously every person in the organization has a different communication style, and that's okay too. But don't forget to communicate. Don't forget to bring other people on board. It's really important. And to make sure that this is successful long term, you want to keep communicating. You want to keep recognizable. You want to keep doing this on an ongoing basis because, and I think it's like with any project, people want to know what's going on. People want to know what's in it for them. So if they don't know, and if it's something like, hey, do this, it's good for the environment and whatever, I'm asking you to take an extra hour out of your day to do it, then that's not something that they're going to be willing to do, and it's not going to last long term. Whereas if you say, hey, this is what's in it for you, and guess what, we are making a contribution to our community. We are reducing the impact on the environment, and it's helping you in your job longer term or shorter term. That, I think, is a different message. I think that's a really important message because organizational behavior and employee engagement is key to me for any project, making sure that it survives long term.
Definitely. And I guess that now that we're educating the children and getting it to come through there in the schools, then following generations, it's going to be much easier because the local schools now have waste-free Wednesdays, where they literally don't have a rubbish bin and everybody has to take their rubbish if they bring it home. Of course, they're now reducing the packaging on their lunchboxes because they don't actually want to take it home. So that's possibly something you could do in the office as well, have a waste-free Wednesday where you need to be taking your wrappers back to put in your own recycling bins. And now a lot of places also have the compostable bins that are picked up by the local councils. So taking your rubbish home to your own personal residence for that particular day, and then maybe have it as a department challenge. So you have the accounts department and the HR department and all of those kind of things in the larger businesses. So there's lots of different ways that people can do it, and sometimes it is just thinking outside of the box. I think this is a really great topic, and we could certainly talk on it for a lot more. Is there any other points that you would like to add in there at all?
I think those are the main points. What I really want to stress at the end of the day is that if you are a small business and you are resource constrained and you're really kind of thinking about what to prioritize, there are definitely smaller projects that you can get started with, like we went through, and you don't have to do everything at once. Look at what budget you have, look at what resources you have. If you have a few people in your business, I would ask if anyone is excited and interested in doing this, because I bet you there probably is someone who's really excited about it, but maybe hasn't really told you about it. At the end of the day, it is a competitive advantage. It is something that can attract customers and it can grow sales. It also can attract talent. I mean, there are definitely studies that have shown that millennials and Gen Zers prefer to work for organizations that are giving back to the environment, giving back to the community. And so there's so many benefits to going green, and it is becoming mainstream. And so if you're a small business, or if you're a small business owner, small business manager, I would really, really encourage you to think about how you could incorporate this strategy into your kind of short-term and long-term goals, and then just get started today. It's really not that hard. With a lot of things, I think we may overthink things. Here, just start with one step and get going. That's all. Then you build momentum.
Perfect. And I think that's what we do is we think it's bigger than Ben-Hur, so we don't start. But of course, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Excellent. So with all my guests, I ask them 5 final questions. So are you game?
Okay.
So what is the best advice given to you by a mentor?
Best advice given to me by a mentor is focus on one thing at a time. Really big on multitasking? No. Focus on your biggest, most important, not urgent thing. Get started with that one, then move on.
Absolutely, and that's becoming a reoccurring theme. I think my last 4 guests have all said the same thing, so that's excellent. Okay, yeah. What is the biggest help you've received since starting your business?
Actually, it was one of my colleagues and I did a Washington, D.C. wide Smarter DC challenge where we brought on over 400 businesses to compete around sustainability and gamification. And honestly, the biggest help has been this colleague who I hadn't really worked with before. The input that she provided me around how I interact with others, the pros and cons, right? We worked very well together. My strengths were her weaknesses and vice versa. So it helped me to kind of look at my weaknesses or some of my weaknesses and say, okay, in the future, there are some things that I need to work on. And this is fantastic. Working together with Patty Rose, I will shout out her name. It was fantastic because it was huge kind of ongoing help over 2.5 years when we did this project.
Okay, what is the one thing that you have to do every day, your non-negotiable?
My non-negotiable has now started being meditation. I try to do 10 minutes a day, but the baseline is 1 minute if I absolutely can't do 10 minutes.
Great. What is your favorite business book and why?
Most recent one is In the Pursuit of Perfect by Tal Ben-Shahar. He is a professor at Harvard, and basically the focus is on not being perfect, being an optimalist versus being a perfectionist. And I'm a recovering perfectionist. The idea is that you want to do things better, slowly, continuously better, and you want to have a more of a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset. This has to be done this way. We're done, and that's it.
Because if we wait until it's perfect, we'll never actually get it out to the world, and then we can't help anybody. I like that.
Exactly.
Optimalist. Excellent. And our final question is, what do you wish you had known when you started your business?
Goodness, so many things. First thing was starting a business is not easy, right? It's a lot of times it's really sexy. It sounds like fun. It's a lot of work. What I wish I would have known is, and what I realized is that what you start out with and what you end up with kind of throughout the time, that your business evolves and that's okay. You know, you might have an idea that is set in stone in your mind and your clients are going to tell you, no, that's not what we're interested in. I started out also doing residential work. That didn't work out. I mean, there was a lot of interest, but, if you look at a business and kind of long-term financial viability, that would not have worked. The clients, the businesses are the ones that really wanted to do this and implement it. I learned you have to evolve with your business and you have to let the business guide you as well.
Great. And I think that's sometimes where people go wrong is they're so set in stone that they want their business to look in a particular way. And when it doesn't, that breaks their heart and they're not always able to change. So, yes, we definitely do have to do a bit of a cha-cha sometimes, a bit forward, a bit sideways, and a bit backwards. And, then we move on. So that's excellent. Well, this has been great. People would like to know more about your eco-coaching and how to find you. Where would they go?
They can go to the website. It's eco-coach.com, ecocoach.com. And actually what I wanted to mention is right now we have a free downloadable guide around 50 projects that you can get started with that are low cost. So that might be a good place to start if people want more information and also some resources and some ways that you can sell your Going Green project afterwards externally. Other than that, I would definitely say EcoCoach. You can email me also at anca@eco-coach.com if you have some direct questions. Social media is all on the website, so you can see that as well.
Lovely, and we'll put all of that in the show notes. Wonderful. So thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it. And yes, sustainability is definitely a hot topic and will continue to do so, which is absolutely fabulous because we need this planet to survive for our kids, grandkids, and on from there. So
thank you so much, Cathy, for having me on the show. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Don't forget to subscribe to Small Business Talk podcast and head on over to smallbusinesstalk.com sbtmedia.com.au/downloads for all the show notes and links to this episode. Remember, to be great, you must start. Pick one tip from today's episode, take action and implement it. Let's meet again next week at the same time and place. Until then, take action. And SBT community, enjoy your journey.